And welcome everybody
Will this be
to
the first
another
time?
episode of Mac Yak, number 76 for June 18th. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
everybody.
Got a pretty good show tonight for you. Got a lot of topics to go over. I don't know if we're going to hit all these tonight, to be honest with you. But we're going to give our shot here. Just make sure everybody can hear everybody, so everybody say something.
Say
Something.
Something.
Check one,
We're
two.
so predictable.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
All right. Should be
Let
working.
us know in the chat if that works.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Audio
welcome.
sounds good. Sweet.
That's good. You would think after 76 episodes I'd get it right?
Yeah.
One can hope.
Yep. Anyways, guys, how's everybody been doing this past week?
All right.
Good.
Trying to keep my sanity.
I think it's a struggle for everybody. It's almost Friday. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scarlet goes 76 times the charm. Yeah, so it's not third time. Yeah, so
Took us a little while.
yeah. Anyways, guys, we're gonna go ahead and I guess we'll go ahead and get started. We have no news and announcements, so let's go right into our first topic here. The 2019 Mac Pro just became more upgradable. So apparently Apple is introducing a new user installable SSD kit for the 2019 Mac Pro with a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, and 8 terabyte storage modules. And if somebody wants to, there we go. Jay already put the link in there. That's the link. So if anybody wants to go to it and see it, apparently now that might be one of the things that's being released Monday. So we'll find out, I guess. So what do you guys think about this?
Whoop-de-doo.
Is
What
that
was
for
it?
all of
What
them,
is
or
the
just the
default
ones
that
they're making from
being
now?
sold with?
No, the
I'm
2019.
I'm guessing this is just an. So correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the initial problem with the new Mac Pro is that the SSD was tied to the T2 chip? And please correct me because I have no idea what I'm talking about. And that you were sort of restricted in upgrading the SSD because you would basically make it not work, I guess, if you're not using an Apple SSD, or is that
I
the?
think you're actually right on
As
that.
far as I know, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this, I guess this is the way that you would be able to upgrade, but of course paying your Apple tax on the SSD.
Yeah.
That's-
'Cause,
But at least there's an
by
option.
default, it sells with 256, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, or 4 terabyte, or 8 terabyte.
Well, here's the question.
So they're
I
not
got.
offering any upgrades.
Is it going to be standard storage modules, or is it going to be Apple specific storage modules?
Well, I guess whoever did a teardown on it already, if I like I said, I haven't followed any of this stuff, but if you, I guess, are using a standard module or not, you're still going to pay Apple's price just to get it to work with the T2 chip. But I guess let's say you went the cheap end and you only bought the 1 terabyte storage or whatever on your Mac Pro. I guess now if you wanted a 4 terabyte one and you have $1,600 burning a hole in your pocket, you go ahead and do that. But
Yeah.
More than my car.
Yeah, what's that?
Prices range between $600 and $2,800.
yeah, that's the 8 terabyte one.
Yeah.
2,800.
2,800 added, so that goes with the if you add the wheels, if you add the
Yeah.
Those things better be made out of freaking gold. I'm
I
sorry.
still think you're better off just getting a PCI card with an NVMe drive on.
That's
On
what
it.
I
Oh,
think.
definitely.
Are
Yeah.
we sure that's?
And I
gonna
think that's
actually
what most
work
people will do,
in
yeah.
No.
The 2019 Mac Pro. Does that actually work in the NVMe card?
It
What?
does.
There is some tests that were done.
What you
could
have
do
to
it.
do,
You
you
can do
have
it
to
via
disable
that or the SATA port, I believe.
with the Mac Pro. They have a security feature where you can only boot off of the T2 drives, but you can disable the security feature, and then it will boot off of anything. So
Yeah, I haven't kept up much on that. Just like Steve and stuff. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
Well, I know that
I
you
won't
I'm
can't.
not buying one, so I don't know about it.
Yeah, I know you can't boot off like a Linux or anything like that with the T2 chip installed in it. Externally you can, but not internally, right, Grudy?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question. Do you think this was Apple's plan all along, or do you think this is a response to people complaining about the fact that it wasn't user installed?
Definitely a response to it. It had to
A
be.
response. But here's the
That's a good
question.
question, though.
Well, here's another question: is how, like you just said, how is it going to be tied to the T2 chip, or is it not going to be tied to the T2 chip?
Well, actually,
It is.
I'm reading
It
this.
is. It already says it is in the article.
Oh, does it?
I'm
Yeah.
reading this Mac Rumors article that says installing a new SSD is as simple as popping off the case, unlocking one of the PCI card slots, and screwing in the bracket. Once the case is back on, the Mac Pro booted up after installing a new SSD, and they're talking about an OWC one. So I don't know how they're saying they're booting off an OWC NVMe SSD. I'm sorry. PCI slot. All right, so
Yeah.
they must have. My bad. Again, I don't know anything about this stuff.
We do our research on this
As
show.
far as I know, well, hours of homework go into this. They are tied to the T2 chip, and I believe, I might be wrong, I believe at the time someone tried to take 2 modules from another Mac Pro, put them in the Mac Pro, and even that didn't work. So how they're going to tie brand new modules into your T2 chip, I have no idea. But if Apple has a way around it, then it must be, maybe someone will figure it out.
Maybe the module is provided in a particular way that the Mac Pro sees as being completely brand new, never used before, whatever the case may be, and then at that moment then does some sort of connection that can't be broken.
Or it could be there's a firmware update that allows those specific modules to work properly.
Is anybody
Because
having a
these
hard
actually
time
have
hearing Rocky?
Yeah,
I can't hear a
Rocky's a
word
bit
you're
low.
saying.
I have no
can't.
clue what he's saying. Sorry, Rocky.
Yeah, your audio is just so low.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
That's
hear
better.
you now.
That's better.
Yes.
Yep.
Much
Okay,
better.
so I fixed it. Good deal. I had to, reinsert. So the question is, is this article applicable to current stuff that's available now or in the future? Because they could release a firmware update that might potentially make it more compatible.
Anyone that currently has a 2019 Mac Pro or buys one in the future can install these upgrades.
Yeah, but it could be a firmware, upgrade that makes them work.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it actually says software installation requires a second Mac running Apple Configurator 2 and a USB-C cable.
So you can't even install it if you own one Mac?
What in the heck?
It's right on Apple Store. Software reinstallation requires a second Mac running Apple Configurator 2 and a USB-C cable.
Apple Configurator 2, really? So this is
Yeah.
for business? This is a business product.
No, I can run configurator at home. Anyone can
Well,
get it.
true, but in reality, Apple Configurator 2 was originally created and
Well,
still
yeah,
is.
I see what you're getting from that, but I think that I guess what this is doing is that configurator application is what is tying the SSD to the Mac Pro in some way with the T2 chip or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it phones home to Apple.
Yeah,
you
something
have to
must
have
be
an
going
Apple
on.
subscription there. Yeah,
It's the same
required.
with MacBook Pros with a T2 chip. If you do a software update or a firmware update and it goes bad, the only way to get back in is with Apple Configurator. It's
lovely.
like you're resetting a damn iPhone. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
I'm glad I don't own one of those.
I agree with Jay on that.
So then Neil goes,
So-
what if you don't have a USB-C Mac?
Then what are you doing buying an
Your
upgrade?
SOL.
Yeah.
right.
And you're dragging a 50-pound Mac to the Apple Store to have them do it for you.
But you got the wheels, you're okay.
Yeah, there you
or
go.
you got the rack mount, or you got the handles. You're all right.
Well, wait, we're forgetting about the Apple Ramp, which is coming out this year.
Yeah, I'll just use a Hot Wheels ramp, put some stickers on it.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our next topic here. Some updates from an AMD insider. So our topic after this is going to be pretty interesting, but we're still going to stick to our guns here at MacYac, I think, saying that all
We're
the new
trusting Bob.
Macs, yeah, we're trusting
Yep.
Bob.
Everybody but me.
That thinks all the new Macs will be coming out with AMD CPUs versus ARM. The ARM is going to be basically used for the T2 / possibly T3 chip that the Apple may be coming out with. So,
Ooh, T3
yeah,
chip.
that's all we need is a T3 chip.
Yeah,
And why
nothing
is
like a
Mike
turd for.
sideways?
I'll go
He's
sideways,
got
too.
magic. He's Magic Mike. What can
Yeah,
we
I got
say?
to do this now to see Mike. But I still think it's gonna. They're coming out with it. Also, the AMD Navi 10 GPUs will be in all new products from this point onward. I kind of knew that was going to happen because the 5700 is going to be the new standard the new low-end standard for the Mac Pro.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not too shocked about that
yeah,
because
Yeah,
we know that Apple and Nvidia have been game over for years now.
yeah,
So
that's because Nvidia gave him the finger, and Apple was like, "Oh, you're not going to give us the finger."
yeah.
We'll give
And
you the
here, and the other thing is that since they're going with AMD GPUs, that makes more sense for them to go with AMD CPUs, which have surpassed Intel CPUs in every respect. So
They could have done this in the past, so I'm personally still on the fence that I think Apple's going to go with a proprietary ARM CPU. I really do. I don't know if they're going to do it in the Pro, but I still feel like that's the direction they're
I
going to
doubt
go.
it.
That's my personal feeling, and I've stuck to that since the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're definitely not alone there, Rocky. I mean, there are a lot of people that agree with you. So
Yep.
we just
And a lot of people are going to be wrong.
we've been saying it for so long. We kind of have to stick to our guns, don't we?
But yeah, our insider is basically saying that AMD staff have been told to be tight-lipped right now up until Monday's announcement. So we may hear something Monday morning.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm up for it. I
We
want to
don't
hear.
know.
Well,
I don't care if it's gonna continue to be Intel, if it's gonna be AMD or ARM, whatever works without throttling.
Well,
I'm all for it.
I agree with Jay on
well,
that.
here's the thing with AMD. Okay, right now it runs cooler than Intel chips. It runs faster than Intel chips. They have more cores than Intel chips. I mean, everything is just way better on a AMD chip. So
Cannot disagree.
I can see AMD Epic series going into the Pro line and possibly the iMac line, and then the MacBook Pros having the AMD. What's that other one they have? The lower end one, uh, but it still has like I think 12 cores or something like that.
Is that the Ryzen?
Ryzen, yeah,
stuff?
that's it. The Ryzen, that's
Okay.
the one I was thinking of. So I could see the Ryzen's going in those. Now, if Apple came out, and I've been saying this all along, every Mac Yak we've had so far, and I think a bunch of you guys agreed with me on this, is that the only MacBook Pro, or not MacBook Pro, but MacBook I can see coming out with an ARM-only architecture is the MacBook Air. Uh, that's the only one that makes sense to have an ARM
Yeah,
architecture in it.
because it's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest reasons why I still think it's going to be AMD, because writing the software is going to be a no-brainer, because everything that you run on an Intel machine will run on an AMD machine. There's really no
Well,
uh, recoding.
It's Dana.
if you want the technical, though, if you want the actual technical, the 64-bit architecture is licensed to AMD. And with Apple going straight 64-bit at, I don't remember which OS they actually forced that to be 64-bit only. I think it was Catalina. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. With that, the 64-bit architecture is 100% licensed out of AMD. Intel licenses the x86 architecture, the 32-bit version. So, with that in mind, if they were to go AMD, they are literally being able to forego the Intel licensing, because they can just say, hey, AMD, don't even make them 32-bit compatible. Just cut that off, and they can go with a proprietary design that would save money, because they only need the 64-bit architecture of the chip and that 64-bit licensing that AMD owns.
I don't see that happening though, because some people are still going to want to use Boot Camp, which needs backwards compatibility with 32-bit.
Not
Makes sense.
necessarily.
Well,
You
what
can
if
still do
what if you
64-bit.
install? Yeah. What if you install Windows 10 64? So then you don't need a.
Well, it doesn't matter because you still need 32-bit for 32-bit programs. Windows still does
But
that.
here's the
Oh, no. What I'm saying is the chip is only smart enough to execute 64-bit programs or whatever, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So-
you're also assuming that Apple cares.
No, I'm just saying
Not
that.
you, Steve, but Grudy.
No, I'm just saying
I'm
that
assuming that
I've
Apple
never-
cares
I've never
enough,
had
at
a
least.
problem running 32-bit apps on a Windows thing because I don't know.
Yeah, but Windows it utilizes, because all the chips, even currently, the Ryzen and the Epic, they still have, and they're still paying Intel for the 32-bit license. They're still paying for that x86 compatibility, and they still provide it. It's still a subset in the chip architecture.
I'm actually more interested on. We have a note in the topics here about an iMac with a totally new design. And so it says the iMac would be a totally new design like the Pro Display.
See, Steve's jumping
Now-
ahead.
Well,
I know,
it's in the
I
same
know.
thing, but I'm just
I'm messing
thinking like when I think about the iMac, everyone complains that the iMac has a chin, the area below the screen. But honestly, like, where else are you gonna grab it to tilt it or whatever? You're gonna grab the screen and get your fingerprints right over. I mean, I like having something else to grab onto. I wall mounted a TV, and after I mounted it, I had fingerprints all over every single corner because there was nothing else to grab onto. It was like bezel-less. I mean, I don't know how much further they could take a desktop. I mean, this is Apple, of course, so they're going to remove all the ports just like they removed the optical drive and make the bezel stupid thin.
100%
But-
Bluetooth.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old cranky person about this, but
I think if you are complaining about the iMac's chin, then you have way too much time on your hands. Let's face it.
yeah.
Well, since we're
I
already
want
talking
wireless
about this,
charging on an iMac. Why not?
yeah, let's go ahead and
I mean-
transition into our next topic then, because that actually, Steve mentioned it, is the new iMac. So what we want in this topic is basically rumors that we think is going to happen. And one of the rumors, like Steve just said, is the iMac is going to look like the new Pro displays, the HDR Pro.
No,
Pro
the
display.
rumor is that the new iMac is going to look like the iPad Pro, just a bigger version. So
You
that
just
goes
scale it.
that goes against what our dear insider was telling us, that it looks like an XDR display.
But
No.
here's another thing. If it looks like the XDR display, how easy is it going to be to get inside that thing? Because with all those little holes in the back,
Yeah.
you're talking about lots and lots of dust entry points.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole
Apple don't
point
care.
between those holes is the cooling for that massive GPU that's driving that display. But I think if they did an iMac, it would just be a subtle design change. Maybe they'd make the chin thinner. I don't know, but
Thinner.
thinner, less tall, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you think of how they service those machines, that chin is there so they could take the display, bend it down, and there's still something holding up that display, when they're working on it. I mean, there are other uses for it too, obviously. That's where everything else sits. But I mean, look, I'm all for them changing the design of it. I just don't see what else. It's like, what else can you do with an iPhone? It's been that same candy bar shape forever. You're going to make it thinner. You're going to cut out areas around the screen. But I keep hearing like, oh, there's going to be a radical new design. I'm like, all right, they're going to make the bezel thinner. Like, what else are they going to do?
I agree with you on the iPhone because remember, this is June too, so they're probably going to be introducing maybe a new iPhone too. This is pretty
Isn't
much.
this supposed to be the one that's not going to have any ports whatsoever? It's going to be the portless iPhone.
Well, I personally think they're holding off on that because they can't even get their air mat right. So they got to wait another generation or so.
Well, I mean, you don't need their air mat. I mean, you got plenty of third-party stuff out there. I mean, I have a third-party one that I use.
Apple wants to charge
this.
you for a mat when you go to the store to buy your brand new phone.
I understand that.
Yeah.
but they got a lot of third-party apps in their store as well, or mats as well. So
I want to see what it's going to look like to do a, reset on the phone. You got to do a factory reset.
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
we talked all about that. No, I think it was not last show, but like one or two before that, about what a wireless iPhone would be like. How do you service the damn thing?
well, yeah. How do you reload the software into it if you have to?
Magic.
No
Yeah.
buttons.
Yeah.
Courage.
Shake it a
What
little
else
bit.
are we expecting from WWDC?
One thing I did want to just quickly mention when we were talking about the iMac is one of the things we obviously saw when the new Mac Pro came out was this adopting more of a modular bringing back, I should say, bringing back the modular aspect of the computer, the user serviceability, the ability to sort of, plug things in and out, that kind of thing. If they're bringing out a new iMac, are they going to make it easier to upgrade? Accessing RAM, accessing hard drives, or are they going to just
No.
stick with the?
I could
Yeah.
see them
I
doing
say
that with
no.
an iMac Pro because you're going to pay extra money for it. Maybe they give you an eGPU option, or I don't know, something. They give you something to make you feel like you have a pro machine. But I can't see them doing that to the low-end standard iMac because that they're going to want you to buy another machine in a few years. And if they give you a backdoor to upgrade memory and stuff like that, I don't see that happening. Now I would
yeah.
be loved. I would love to be proved wrong on that because that means
Yes.
I could buy a cheap computer and have it upgrade.
Maybe this is the new Apple that listens to their customers.
Steve, you gotta
Yeah,
remember,
I
Well,
don't
wouldn't
think
that be
that's
nice though if it was
Let's
true?
go back to 1996 while we're at it.
Bruce brought his funnies today.
Yeah, but the 27-inch iMac already has built-in where you can upgrade the memory. I mean, so
It did.
The
have-
old ones
I don't
did.
know if it's
no,
still.
it still does. The new ones still do too.
Oh,
20
that's a good feature.
The 27-inch iMac has always had the door in it for memory upgrade.
Not always.
I didn't know if
There-
they
I think
eliminated
there
it.
was one series that it was soldered onto the back, and then they added the door back, and everyone's like, "Yay!"
But
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I
21
remember
and a half inch, you cannot. You can, if you open it up, you can, because it's not soldered on. It's basically it's dims just like everything else. But
Yeah.
you on the 27-inch they added the door where you can actually, because usually they come with 4 slots. The 21-inch 21.5 inches come with 2 slots.
Yeah.
But the 27-inch come with 4 slots, and usually they only populate 2 of the slots when you buy it.
True. Though I think, honestly, I think the way of the Mac Pro, I would love the wonderful utopia that Steve envisions. But I personally think that the iMacs and the MacBook Pros are going to be aligned product-wise. I think that's going to become more of a thing. They're going to make them less and less upgradable. They're going to make them thinner. They're going to make them more of a nightmare in a box. That's my personal opinion.
I kind of agree with
They're-
you there
they're
because
already
they've already
nightmares
done it
of
to
the
the iMac when they made it thinner. They made it where you can't even get inside of it without breaking the seal on it and possibly breaking the glass at the same time. So who knows?
Yeah, true. But I think they're going to make it worse. I mean, they made the MacBooks harder to work on as they made them thinner and thinner until the point that it's pretty much just pointless to even open them up at this point. I mean, what are you going to do? I'm going to look at a board and go, I might as well throw this in a shredder because it's almost pointless
Yeah.
to fix it.
So I mean, we've already said that they're going to probably have a redesigned iMac. They're going to have a redesigned iPhone, more than likely, or not even a redesign. They're probably just going to have a newer iPhone with more cameras on the back because that's
8
yeah.
cameras. Yep.
I won't buy it until there are 6.
Well,
cameras.
I don't know if anybody's seen the Samsung S20, the Samsung S20 Ultra. That thing has 6 or 5 cameras on the back. So Apple's going to have to beat them and go with 6 or 7.
Yeah, but
Oh,
Apple's
my.
never done tit for tat. They've always done things a little different. I can't see them just adding another camera just because Samsung did. I mean, I could see them adding
Well,
more
here's
cameras.
the thing:
but
is
that's not going to
the
be the reason.
Samsung telephoto camera. To be honest with you, is pretty darn. It looks really nice. I've seen it in person, and that thing has some really good zoom because they use a prism in it, and they have the lenses sideways in the phone, so they have more space. So the phone can be thin,
Wow.
but the focal point can be longer. So, yeah, the telephoto lens in that thing is amazing. And unless Apple does something similar, they're basically Samsung's already passed them in the photo. I hate to say that, but they've already passed them in the photo technology.
Yeah, and the reason why they don't put all of these camera lenses into one camera is because there's no space to do that on a phone so thin. So, we have people in the chat going, oh, we don't need this many cameras, we just need one. But the reason that they put these lenses like that in the camera is because you have one that's an ultra wide lens, and it has a very fixed focus, area to focus itself, but it's always zoomed in that way. And then you have the other that's, a little bit
Yeah.
less. And so, yeah, you have an optical zoom for a little bit, but you always have to have a second camera because you look at an older 35 millimeter camera or a digital
Yes.
camera with a zoom lens. There's a reason why the lens is so thick because those optics have to be adjusted.
Yeah.
If you have a very fixed, purpose for that lens, it could be much smaller. And we're talking about crazy advanced stuff here that's much, more compact than any of us realize. But I mean, I really don't care for the thickness of the camera. You want to give me a 10x zoom on it? Sure, I don't mind a bump on it.
But GT, you say that Android has advanced.
Not Android. I said Samsung.
Whatever, Samsung. I keep mixing those up.
Oh, they're the
Has
same
surpassed
thing.
Apple when it comes to camera, but every time a new phone comes out, and I stopped viewing all of them, they always do comparisons. iPhone versus whatever's, and because of the algorithms they use, the sensors that they use, Apple always comes out on top. Even though the hardware
I'm not
is
saying that
often
I'm not,
better in the
yeah, I'm not
Samsung.
saying that the other cameras are bad on the iPhone. I'm talking about the telephoto zoom. Okay, is way
Right.
better than what Apple has right now.
Yeah, well, Apple goes up to 2, right?
Yeah,
2.
2. This one goes up to 75 times.
Yeah, and I'm sure
Optical zoom.
that's.
My
I-
microscope
I-
can't even do that, and it's
I-
this
I-
big.
But see, a lot of these, and including Apple's, are software assisted, so they claim it's 70x or whatever.
I agree with you
but-
there, but
Yeah.
if you look at the way their camera's made, it uses a prism to bend it to sideways so they can have more room to put lenses. They can make it as long as they want, as long as the phone is, and then put another prism to go to the actual sensor itself.
Oh no, yeah, I think that technology is very interesting. I'm curious how it's actually. I'd like to see some comparison photos because I have an older iPhone. The photos are okay, but they're nothing
Yeah.
great. But
Trust me, I know this because I've sat there and watched that frickin' promo video for about 4 weeks.
yeah,
I know
you
your
hear it in
wording
your
was way
sleep.
too specific to
Yeah.
just. you know.
I could probably go word for word on that promo because because they had it playing in front of me for like about 3 weeks solid when the S20 was being.
Ooh, they have a microscope lens adapter.
Now,
for it.
here's another thing about the iPhone. Does anybody think that the iPhone's ever going to be foldable?
I
No.
hope not.
I would
Oh,
love to
God.
see it, but
I think eventually when the technology has improved enough, Apple will come out with something that may involve either a flexible screen or double screens. But I since the fiasco of all the other people trying it, I think Apple's been sitting back and laughing their butts off. Like,
Here's the thing though, is the Flip Z, which is another Samsung phone that they brought out after that Fold, the Fold or whatever they call it. The Flip Z actually is
Fail.
pretty neat, and it doesn't have those same problems that the Fold had.
What, the screen protector that if you peel off the screen
Yeah,
comes with it?
there's yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
that's a
It was
That's a
meant to be
feature.
there. I mean, I remember listening to someone's report on it as they were using it. They said that the fold line on the screen is always visible.
Yeah.
It's always there. When you open it up, okay, you've got this great big screen, but you've got the fold line there all the time. And I remember this particular person saying that he couldn't really explain why, but it bothered him. Always
would
seeing
be.
a fold in the middle of the screen.
My
Yeah.
eyes would draw always to that fold line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it just looks cheap too.
Yeah. Well, it's plastic.
It
It's
looks
not
like there's something
glass.
wrong with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you pay $2,000 for a cell phone, you don't want to see the damn fold.
Yep, I agree with that.
So what are we
And I still
thinking
have
about
an iPhone 7, so it's certainly not
operating
marketed for me.
systems?
Operating system, I think the new Mac OS is going to be pushed out. I'll probably see Appleseed like immediately afterwards, so I'll be able to
I will
download it
too.
and try it.
Yeah.
I know that the beta program, the regular beta testers won't get it for a while, but the Appleseed testers will get it.
And the Apple
Yeah.
developers.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's going to be anything new in Flash.
I don't think so
it's just
either.
gonna be
To be honest with you, I think it's just
another OS 10 version.
it's going to be basically an extension of Catalina and maybe some minor new features added, which a lot of us don't even care about.
yeah, not the segue here, but for me, I think the one of the flashiest new features was only in Mojave, and that was the iPad sidecar thing. What else noteworthy did they introduce? Can
Dark
anyone
mode.
remember? Okay,
Dark
besides
mode.
those two. That it?
Let's see, was it Catalina or was it Mojave that did the folders where you could
That was Mojave.
was it Mojave?
Yeah.
I think
The stacks that we hate.
I like it. I use it. So,
I like Stash. Some
I
people
know.
hate it.
but I don't see a lot of. To be honest with you, I don't see a lot of improvement into Mac OS. I mean,
Oh, there's a lot of things they could fix. They're just too lazy to do it.
I hope it's a rewrite, Catalina Plus or something. Just take the garbage you already have and actually improve it.
nah, come on. We're talking Apple here, man. They don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably stick to Mojave for a long time.
I'm still on High Sierra. Jeez.
Snow.
I fully
Catalina.
expect them to take all of their security measures to an extreme level and call it Alcatraz.
Yeah.
With their California name theming, that would work out quite well.
And here's another thing, and Dana, you just touched on this a little bit. They probably are going to lock it down even more where, like right now, for instance, we can disable SIP by a simple command. So I could see that actually going away sometime soon.
Don't give them ideas.
With open core out there and this one idiot that came out and tried to sell an open core Hackintosh, and thinking,
Yeah, well, they got
oh, I
shut
know
down
they got
already.
shut down, but
Doesn't take them long.
but now open core's name is out there, and so I mean, even Apple
Was.
probably knew about it, but they're probably going to start looking at.
Oh, I'm sure.
I told you.
I'm sure Apple has a whole team dedicated to people just looking for these security things and stuff like that.
So, anyways, so anything else on Mac OS before we move on to our next?
Well, I don't know
system?
if I didn't hear if we mentioned it, but there's rumors that they're going to kill off texts, which I don't see how that's going to work because you still need texts to run things on the computer.
That is true.
So
They're
maybe
always
they're
Warning
going to
going
for
to
that for a
different
few
driver
years.
platform.
So.
Well, remember, Grudy, that's a lot of rumors. A lot of people are wrong when it comes to rumors, so.
Like AMD. And
So yeah, it's one of those. I think that I hope that 10.16 is better. That they fix a lot of the crap that's in. But to be honest with you, when I first load it up, because I usually load it up on my MacBook Pro, I won't put it on my CMP yet. Although I probably could use an open core, but who knows?
I just hope that they finally drop the 10.
yeah, when's 11 coming?
Call it 11 already. Or 15
Well,
or something.
I was expecting that when they changed the name to Mac OS. I thought, all right, the next one is going to be just version 11 or whatever. But I realized, like all of you, they've been just sticking to 10 since
because
2001.
it's X. They can always say X on there,
Well, now they can't.
Well, and here's the thing too is that Apple, if you look at the operating system for OS 10, it hasn't the UI has really not changed much since the beginning.
Give me Aqua
know,
back.
Well, yeah, there have been pretty big shifts from the introduction of Aqua, then settling it down with Panther and Tiger, and we've all seen that. It's actually very easy to forget. You go back and you get white menus with pinstripes, and you're like, what the heck is this? But I don't see messing with quote unquote perfection too much because it works. I mean, I would be quite annoyed if Apple spent all their time redoing the whole UI for no reason. I think that works, but I think it is time to move on.
Well, I mean, but
name it 11.
but
or
when we
something.
had when Windows, I mean, when they changed it from, I'm just saying though, if you look at Windows 8, even Windows 7 to Windows 8 was a big UI change. Windows 8 to Windows 10 was a big UI change.
And
Well, yeah,
people complain
exactly,
about it a
because
lot.
people complain about 8.
But you also have to remember, Microsoft is still, is or was still selling the Windows operating system as an upgrade package. They were trying to get something flashy for people to buy it. If you say, oh, it runs faster, no one's going to buy it. You say, oh, it has a new home screen, or you got a new look, or this does this, or whatever, then you get people to buy it. The Mac OS updates are free now. So it's a little bit different. I think Apple has sort of pushed itself away from, we have these massive updates, because Catalina was like security updates and this and that. And not that they're not useful things. It's just, I think their whole marketing and pushing of a new OS is vastly different than what Microsoft's is, because they have completely different models and completely different audiences. I would love for them to just say, well, I'm actually afraid if they go to 11 that they'll be like, oh yeah, all those OS 10 apps, yeah, they ain't gonna run anymore. This is OS 11 now.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
go ahead. No, go
sorry,
ahead.
go
Ross.
ahead. Okay. What I was going to say is if we look at the history of Apple, so the classic Mac OS, which denoted from, 5 or 6, I remember 6 being the first one that I ever messed with, all the way through 9 was basically the same. So we're seeing that same thing with OS 10. It's basically the same OS in what you do and how it works in the basics of it. I mean, there's changes and stuff that take place. So how long did classic Mac OS actually run? I mean, that was over 10 years. It probably had I think, what was almost a 15-year run. Or, they're already over that with OS 10. I think they're coming up on 20 years. So it'll be interesting. I mean, if they did go to 11, like Steve said, I think it would be a radical change because 10 was a radical change from the classic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming if they do make a name change, it's gonna just be a change in the name. They might have some flashy new features, but I don't see them changing the fundamental core of the operating system unless something massive happens. They switch to a completely different processor architecture. But Apple has said time and time again when they were pushed to answer questions about, oh, are you making the Mac more like an iPad, or is it going to replace, iPad OS is going to replace the Mac? Apple has kept saying, no, we're keeping these separate. We don't like what Windows has done them. Yeah. We don't think that's going to work for us. So I don't see them changing anything. And maybe, a name is just a name. Who knows if they'll even market the version numbers anymore.
Here's something that Taj Callender said in chat. He says, just like how Windows 10 is the last version of Windows, Mac OS 10 is the last version of Mac OS. Could be a possibility. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just like they've differentiated iPad OS from iOS. I don't think they're going to change, the OS anytime soon. All the developers will be quite upset.
Well, especially if they do change, like we were talking about before. If they make that mistake and go ARM, that's going to change a lot of stuff because all the apps you have now are not going to run in the newest, version coming out. So if it gets announced Monday that they're switching to ARM and that Mac OS 11 or maybe even it might be called Mac OS 11. You never know. Saying that okay, we're going to go to ARM processor, but they still said it was 10 when we switched from PowerPC to Intel, so it still could be 10.16. Who knows?
Well, and if they do that, I would think they would have a compatibility layer just like they did with PowerPC. They held it for 2 runs and said everybody else.
Yeah.
Have we? Because I must have zoned out. Did we make the segue into our next topic? Because that's what we're kind of talking about.
We're already talking about WDC.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I wasn't falling asleep here. I obviously was.
Did you look at the under the overlay there? It says
no. I had my. I have the Skype full screen. I didn't see the YouTube.
But anyway, so that's Mac OS. Now, what about Watch OS?
I only want one thing. I want the screen to dim when I go to sleep.
I agree with you on that because when I wear it, because I use a sleep app. So in order for me to use that app, I have to wear my watch to bed. So the screen is always on, but I want it to dim completely dark when I'm in bed.
So put on the theater mode.
But why should I have to do that? It should do that automatically.
You go boop, boop. There you go.
What is theater mode?
Theater mode darkens the screen completely.
It's boop boop apparently.
Yeah, so you push the little face masks thing, the drama theater masks thing, and what it basically does is you're in a theater, you have to tap the button for it to actually wake up, and then there's it further is just a thing that does not allow you to have the screen just like if you try and raise it, you're not going to see the display or anything.
Yeah, but if I want to check the time, I still have to tap the screen.
But you're trying to sleep, so what are you doing?
Wake up. Oh, man, I just woke up. What time is it? 600 lumens in my face.
I actually know. I do agree that it would be nice to have some smart dimming enabled in there. But
But
especially
wait
the
a
new ones
minute.
that are on all the time.
But wait a minute, though. If that screen is always on, why is Apple not using the same screen technology that I have in an HP laptop from years ago?
Oh no,
A
they
couple
have it.
years ago.
There's just no setting for it right now.
Well, no. What I'm saying is the screen technology that I'm talking about is that it actually has LEDs behind the display that actually only light the section that actually needs to be lit, and the rest of it is completely dark.
Rocky,
They
that's
do.
exactly what the screen is doing because
Okay, well, I don't have one of those,
yeah,
so
it's an it's an OLED display, and they slow down the refresh rate to once every second versus or once every I think it's 10 seconds versus 60 times a second like it's normally done. So that's how they get away with the battery life lasted so long because it's an OLED display for one, so it's only lighting the pixels up that need to be lit, and it dims down a little bit when you're actually not looking at it, and when you raise your hand up it becomes brighter. So
This is the darkest. I don't know if this is on camera.
yeah,
Let
you
me
can
know
see
if
it.
it is or
Yeah.
isn't. This is the darkest watch face that I've been able to make, and even those two dials are so bright it lights up half my room at night.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it.
And there
I
is
mean,
a
I don't have
brightness
one, so I don't
control, but it it either it's broken or it doesn't work because I don't see a change when I adjust the brightness. So
Yeah, if you have the Apple Watch app, my brightness is set all the way down, and mine is pretty darn bright. So
But
Yeah.
you're still using the OG watch, right, Steve?
no, I have the third gen.
Oh, third gen. Okay. So you're same. Yours can run the same OS as ours, then, yeah.
I believe so.
But you don't have
Yep.
the always on screen though. So
No, that's a hardware thing. Yeah,
apart from
what I-
that, the watch is doing everything I need it to do. I can't think of anything that's missing. So
Yeah, I'd be interested in customizable watch faces because right now you only really get the ones from Apple or you
that's
download
another
an
thing.
image.
Yep.
I think that
Yeah, I'd like
because
that.
they did this whole thing and then they kind of walked back from it. You know, they had this sort of app store for Apple Watch and you had all these apps. I liked it. I had my thermostat on my watch. I had my light system on my watch. I could just go boop boop tap it, and then they, walked back from it and they said, oh, developers aren't really demanding this or whatever. I don't know what the excuse was, but I would like to see more functionality on here. I don't need everything on here, and there's still apps that I have on here, but it would be great if I can make a custom watch face or something like that, and put it on the store or whatever. And I'm sure, yeah, there's a way to do that now, but I don't think watch faces specifically are something that Apple is allowing. That would be nice for them, to do that. I think they've gotten better with the customization options on the OS to give you some more functionality of making a custom watch face, but they should do that more. So.
But the customization is very, very, very limited. I mean,
Oh, of course, yeah,
um,
because you're only doing what you
what
could do
Apple
now.
says you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, and I think Steve is right with this point, is that they need to let developers develop watch faces. I have an Android watch too, and there's actually a third-party app called Facer that you can actually go and get thousands upon thousands of watch faces. I mean, there's a watch face for everything out there, and you could throw it on your watch, no problem. Android lets you do that. However, I wish that Apple would actually let us do that. Let developers make apps that you can change the watch faces on. That's the one biggest gripe I've had ever since I've owned the very first OG Apple Watch, was that the watch faces were very limited. Like I could care
agree.
less about the Buzz Lightyear one or the Toy Story one. Or, sorry, but I don't care about those. And they sat there and said, "Oh, this is the latest and greatest thing. We're going to put these on here." I don't care. I have the basic. I don't know if you can see this or not. Well,
No,
not
we
with my background, but anyways, I have the basic one where it's just all digital, and I have like my calendar up, and I have a bunch of different complications on there that I can, see at a quick glance. But
I like this one where you can actually
that's
put
that.
lots and lots of little buttons on it.
That's exactly the same one I've got on mine there, Bruce. Yeah.
But this one doesn't show me the seconds, and that drives me bonkers. I like to know seconds. The two bits
I
of information that are often on watches that I like to have that people don't let me have is I like to know what year it is because I do sometimes forget, and I like to know. I like to see the seconds. So
I totally agree with you there because like right now it says Thursday, June 18th. There's no year. Okay. But then it says 20, right now it says 2045. I use military time, of course, but it says 2045 on my watch, but no seconds. I wish it had seconds. I agree with you on that.
That's the one I use on my watch there.
I have seconds. Just use the analog.
Yeah, the analog's the
thingy.
only one that actually has the second hand, but
I
I
have
like my
seconds on
digital
mine.
one though too.
I use
and of course
this
the other
one. It
thing
has seconds.
is I like to have as many shortcuts on it as possible to different things.
Exactly.
For me, we're one short. I would like to be able to have one more shortcut on that screen, and I'd be happy. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that you can have on this particular layout, and I'd like a
Five
fifth.
actually, if you got because you could click the calendar one too.
Well,
Yes, you're right.
that's
Sorry.
why they're going to release the 80 millimeter version for people like you, Bruce.
I'll tell you what, the way 2020 is going, I don't want to be reminded what year it is.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
No, good point.
We'll never forget that one, will we?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
That's why you
Taj,
look at the watch
Taj
to
has
see if
a
it
good
changed.
question.
So anything else
Sorry.
on Watch OS?
Yes, Taj actually has a good note or question, however you want to put it. Where I mean, when do you charge your watch? If you're,
I was wondering that too.
Okay.
I
if you
do
have
it
it on all night.
I charge my watch about an hour after I get up out of bed. Okay, it takes about an hour to charge it completely. I can go. My watch will go. This is no joke. The Series 5. I can go all day, all night, and pretty much all day the next day before I actually have to charge it. I mean, it'll be at almost zero by that time. So it's about a day and a half of charge on the watch itself.
Nice.
I charge my watch at the end of the day. Usually when it's dinner time, I put my watch on the charger. I'm usually down to 40%-ish by that time. And I just grab it before I go to bed, put it on, track my sleep.
It takes less than an hour to charge up, believe it or not. It doesn't take that long.
Wow.
Yeah, usually when I go to bed, I just put it on the nightstand and it charges. But the battery on this is pretty good. I had it replaced under warranty because the older battery was just like taking a nosedive. I know what was wrong with it, but yeah, with the fresh battery, you're pretty long lasting.
Well, I mean, I had the Series, well, whatever they call the Series 1 watch, the OG one, and the battery in it would barely last a day. I mean, I would get down to like 10% before I even, got to home sometimes. So the battery in it was dying. So, but I had to put it on the charger at night, and it would take pretty much all night to charge that thing. But the Series 5 is one of those that I've not had a problem charging. It takes about less than an hour, and boom, I can throw it right back on my wrist, and I'm good to go. But like Jay said, when we wear it at night for our sleep apps, you don't want that bright screen staring you in the face.
Yeah, and in case anyone is wondering what it looks like to habitually get not enough sleep, this is the past few weeks of my life. That's supposed to be all green. I'm in the red and the yellow.
You're all right. You're all right.
You're fine.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I get texts from Jay at all sorts of weird times over here, and I think, aren't you supposed to be asleep now?
Jay never sleeps, man. He's.
I never sleep either, so.
All right. So the last operating system we got on our notes here is TV OS 14. Any thoughts on that?
No.
I think the only real updates they've had since they came out was like supporting AirPlay 2 and some multi-speaker setups and stuff like that. I don't have the 4K Apple TV. I have like the 4th gen 1080p one, and I enjoy it. I use a lot of the apps on it. I can't really specify anything that I am really missing that I would really want on it, but it would be cool if it was shown a little bit of love, because it seems like ever since they added the App Store, it's like Apple's excuse to be like, oh, well, we don't need to touch the software anymore. It's good. So I don't really have a problem with it. It seems to be one of the most stable things I have. I have to reboot it once in a while, and that's about it. But I'd be happy to see them add some type of functionality to it, but I don't know what.
I am one of the suckers that bought the 64 gig version back
Me too.
then,
Me
figuring
too.
that I could load it up with movies and music and
Not.
just let me do some local storage and I'll be happy.
At least,
And
at
Mike?
least, at least I made the choice to get the refurb model.
Pet the damn
Yeah.
cat, Mike.
Yes, pet the cat.
Well, I would, but you can't get anywhere near her.
Oh boy.
Oh, poor
Get a
kitty.
broom.
Yeah. But
I'm not ready to freaking throw her out.
as far as tvOS goes, I mean, I don't really care about it. I mean, I use it to watch certain stuff. In fact, I don't even have a cable box in our living room TV, and we use the Apple TV for everything we watch on there. So, I mean, here's the problem though. Most of the new TVs coming out today have all the same features that Apple TV has. So it's
Well,
getting
that was the case 2-3 years ago.
it's getting quite redundant to have an Apple TV. So,
Yeah, if I would have known better, if they would have sold one, I would have gotten the 512 megabyte version. Just the basics I need to stream my Plex to my TV. That's
Well,
Yeah, because I think,
you know
I
what's
think they only
funny
put
about that,
aside
Jay?
8 gigabytes of space for app storage.
My
I think-
TV has Plex built into it. I don't
Mm.
need the Apple TV to do
Yeah,
Plex.
I don't trust smart TVs though. I like my TVs dumb, very dumb.
I use the Mac
Yeah.
Mini.
Well, you ain't gonna get any
There
new
you go.
TVs that
Mac
are
Mini's
dumb
good, yeah.
anymore.
Well, I don't
Right.
know. I've used some pretty smart TVs that are too stupid to even connect to Wi-Fi. So
Mhm.
I've
And
used some
honestly-
smart TVs that are just not supported by the company anymore, so they don't get some support updates anymore.
Yep.
There you go. I mean, personally, I don't have any desire to have an Apple TV just because of the fact that the Samsung Smart TV and the combination of a Google Chromecast, I can actually do everything and then some that I could ever do with having an Apple TV. And I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yep.
Honestly, it'd be kind of cool if they went back to their roots and released another Mac OS based Apple TV.
But you know that's not gonna happen.
There you
That
go.
thing was so useful, though.
That might
Yeah.
actually make me.
Or you guys can just get smart and just
Exactly,
buy
that,
Roku's
Jay.
because they do
Well,
10 times
useful-
more than
useful
Apple
for
TV.
people like us
wait,
that like
I
to
wanna hear
tinker
what
with
Mike
it.
Hold
was
on.
saying.
Yeah, what was Mike saying?
What'd you say, Mike?
And you guys could just get smart and just buy a Roku, and it does 10 times more than Apple TV does.
True.
I
That
bought
is
an
true.
Apple TV. I used it for 3 days. I threw it out because it was useless.
My,
So what-
my
what do
TV
you-
has
what do you-
Roku
Half
built
my
in.
crap on it.
What do you like about the Roku, Mike, that you like more about the
Because
Apple
it's
TV?
open. There's no restrictions on what apps are on it. If I want to get Amazon and Hulu and Netflix on the same device, I don't have to worry about Apple's BS
Yeah.
to get all these things. I log into my Roku. I have 2 of them here in the house, and I have another one at work. All 3 of them are identical. They all have the same stuff on them. I don't have to worry about does this one run this app or does this one run this app? Does this one do this? They're all the same. And I think the most expensive one I have is the one, not the Ultra HD one, but I think they call it a Premiere Plus. It's $99.
Yeah.
Now go buy an Apple TV for that. Yeah, so I can't play games on it. What do you freaking do? That's why I have a $1,200 iPad
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
and a
Hey, I-
$100 laptop that overheats my crotch.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to forget, but Mike makes a great point that for a while there, Apple and Amazon were in a little fighting match there, and they didn't want their app, and Apple wasn't letting Amazon sell their stuff on their store, vice versa, whatever the garbage was.
Yeah,
And it was
just
annoying.
it wasn't just Amazon though. It was Amazon, it was Hulu, and I think Sling you couldn't get on. Was it
Yeah,
Sling?
it was this-
yeah.
yeah.
Now this was the 3rd gen. Apple
Yeah, this
TV.
is
I haven't
before
even-
the App Store. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even touched the new one, so I have no experience with the new ones. Maybe things have changed.
Oh yeah, because Hulu's on there, Prime is on there, all those
Well,
apps you just
but-
But I
mentioned.
still can't. I can't justify spending $200
Oh, no,
on an
yeah.
Apple TV when a $100 Roku does the same damn thing.
Yeah, the only reason I've stuck with the Apple TV is I've really had a smoother experience with it just because like I have a new TV. It's a smart TV. It's like a 2018, 2019 model, whatever it is, and it
With
works
that
pretty
big
well.
sucker that takes up your whole wall.
Damn right. Now,
Well, Taj-
believe it or not, Mike,
Taj-
that stupid thing, you load up
Yeah.
YouTube and it stutters like there's no tomorrow with the Ethernet plug plugged into the back. But
Taj-
I load up the Apple TV and it works fine.
Yeah, Taj just said, don't forget Apple TV Plus and iTunes. Those work on Fire TV and Roku now.
Well, exactly, because Apple wants to get their content and have subscribers across any device. They don't care what the heck it is.
Yeah.
So you haven't seen a new Apple TV model in close to almost 2 years now. And I think that's almost intentional because they're not probably making a lot of money off of it, and they're probably seeing how many subscribers they have signing up on non-Apple devices. I mean,
The
they're
Apple TV has always
I
been a
don't
hobby
expect-
for Apple,
I don't
though.
expect
Exactly,
Apple
and it still
TV to
is.
Never
have
made
another
the money
television.
back.
yeah.
Yep. All right, guys.
Because
So to close out this topic here, just a reminder, guys. Next week, we will not be streaming Thursday night. We are going to actually be streaming Monday night. Okay? Yeah. Right after that night of the WWDC keynote, we are going to have our show, and it's going to be pretty much dedicated to everything that was put out in the WWDC.
It'll be a
So-
special.
Yes. I know one of the guys in the chat here was asking us if we were going to do a live thing, but that's going to be a negative because a lot of us work during the day, so can't do that. I can't even
Yeah,
watch.
so not during the event.
Yeah.
After the event, we'll be live.
I can't even watch the event live, so I have to come back home and watch it before the show. So, rewatch
I
it.
can watch it live, but I have to get up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he will.
And I may be
Dedicated.
driving when it's live, so we will see.
So
Also, just like previous times, there will be a separate channel on Discord where people can discuss the keynote and all that stuff live, so that there's no spoilers in all the other channels for people that want to watch it later.
yeah, so please be respectful of that.
Well, I know that Twitter's going to be full of stuff. And a lot of the people I subscribe to on Twitter are probably going to be spoiling it. But you know what? A lot of stuff I want to know ahead of time, anyways, because I want to be prepared for the show on Monday night. So,
Yeah.
but
I'll
yeah.
text you updates. I'll be sitting here watching it.
So we're basically going to have our show on Monday night versus Thursday. So be prepared to have no show on Thursday night. That gives us a long break between shows after that.
Yeah. Well, it gives us time to think of some really good topics.
There we go.
Is there some way to re-ping them and reissue it on Thursday or something to where they could, people that missed it on Monday could watch it on Thursday?
could
or
always
They
get
can always
notified?
just rewatch it because we don't delete the
Well,
shows.
Or you could
Yeah.
follow our Twitter and we'll just tweet it out
Yeah.
again.
There you go.
Either that or this could be the thing. I could just rebroadcast the whole thing on Thursday. I mean, if the guys want to do that, we could do that too. I mean,
Well, how about we actually go live and try to recreate word for word what we did on Monday?
oh, you talking about us
I'll
being,
leave that to you.
us being
December
unscripted as it
December
is?
3.
You think we're going to remember what we said Monday night on Thursday?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Right.
We're smart people. Yeah.
All right, so let me get my next one up here. Why do we? Okay, topic. Okay, let's go ahead and go in our game round right now. So, are we doing the if you have or?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do the game round here real quick. This is a game round we've started about 4 or 5 weeks ago, where basically. It's almost like if you have done something, you're going to say eep. If you have not done something that we say, quack. So we're going to give you
Quack.
something, and we got a bunch of them on here too. So
I was bored.
yeah, I see.
Yeah, someone went in there just
I
typed
see
until
that.
knuckles bled.
So that's the name of the game, and this is a viewer participation one. So in the chat, we want to see the eeps or quacks. Remember, eep is if you have done it, quack is if you have never done it. Okay?
And if you're watching this on your phone and you're sitting in a Starbucks or somewhere public or in a library, you gotta do it loud.
You gotta say
I don't care how embarrassing it is, you gotta do it.
Yep. All right, first one. Done a data migration that went wrong way, overriding everything you should have kept.
Ooh.
Eep. Quack.
Quack.
I've got a half eep for that.
Yeah,
one.
I think I
Yeah,
have a
there's no half eep.
I'm gonna go eat quack. An eat quack.
eat quack.
Never done.
and Ewak. uh,
Apparently, there's Eep, Quack, and Meow.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
Data
I've never
migration went
not
wrong.
added a cat.
Overwriting everything you should have
The
kept.
meow is you don't know. You're confused.
Yeah. I've never
Got a
really.
lot of
I've,
eeps.
I've never
done
really.
that. Luckily, not for any client or customer data, but for my own flash drives or something. I've done it.
Yeah, I've done it the wrong way, but thankfully I had a backup, so I was just like, okay, I'm just reversing it, and I'm good.
I mean, I ran
Yeah, but they
I run a regular sort of scheduled backup, so I have a drive that gets duplicated on a regular basis. And I would sort of one day I started up my computer, and for whatever reason, the original drive didn't come up, and I just started working off the backup drive.
Oh,
And then next time when the computer started up and the original did come on there, and then the automatic scheduled backup, and it just wrote over all the work that I've been doing. So now, thankfully, it was only I don't know, half an hour's worth of work, something like that.
That
But it
still
was
counts as an eep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. See, you're an Eep. That's it.
Yeah, I'm an eep.
All right, next one. Bought a part, memory, SSD cables, whatever, only to find out you bought the wrong one. And that one's an
Eep.
Eep for me.
Eep.
Big Eep.
I'd
especially
be surprised if anyone hasn't done that.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice. Who did that?
Mike.
Nice, Mike.
If anyone says quack, you must be 12 and never spent any money on buying something.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Right.
just not possible.
I've done that just
Oh,
You just
recently.
did that the other week. I can't remember what it was.
I just bought something recently and it was the wrong thing. I mean, cable, I get it home and I'm like, really? I got the wrong damn
Well,
thing.
that's
We got 2 quacks.
that's everybody's trip to the hardware store.
Oh, come on,
2
Neo,
quacks,
Neo
and I
and
don't
Taj.
believe a word of it.
Nah,
Nope.
sorry.
I call bull quack.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, we don't believe it.
All right,
Sorry,
Quack
we
was
don't
like
just
that.
say.
Just
don't
don't
believe-
remember. That's all.
yeah. So he's
Yeah.
saying
So
he's not
this-
lying. He's seriously never screwed it up. No.
I'm just not buying
not
it.
buying that
I
either,
have
but-
a decent amount of faith in people, but nope,
Yeah.
I'm not buying it.
All right.
So this is an old one.
Yeah. I'll let Steve read this next one here.
So back in the day or today, have you ever went to purchase software for the Mac, but accidentally purchased the Windows version, either by mistake of your own fault or they shipped you the wrong one?
Eep.
Quack.
I'm sure I have at some
I'm trying to
stage.
think.
I missed
I
the-
can't remember, but I can't imagine I didn't.
Who in the hell buys software for a Mac?
Well, that's what I'm. It's a while back.
That's an oxymoron with a bunch of Mac users.
I'm gonna have to say quack on that because I don't think I've ever bought anything that's the wrong version as far as operating system wise.
Yeah,
Back in the well, it's not operating. Well, it's like back in the day, you only bought box software, so you would be in the store and it would say for Mac. You get it home and you find out the copy you grabbed in the store was saying for Mac. That it would work on Mac if you bought the right box.
Yeah. So the question was, if you ever accidentally purchased let's say you're looking for a Mac piece of software, you accidentally purchased the Windows piece. But
The problem is back in the day,
That
if
I
you
have done.
buy something for the Mac, you had to go to a software place that specifically carried stuff for the Mac.
Yep.
It was pretty hard to screw up.
well, the one time that I actually got it
Circuit
wrong
City.
was I ordered a game online, and they had both Mac and PC stuff there, and we filled out, the crude website to say yes, it's the Mac version or whatever, and they just had a shipping error. They sent me the Windows version instead. So we complained. They sent us the Mac version. They didn't even want the Windows version, so we gave it to a friend. So
Now, the closest thing I've gotten to that is this will probably trip you guys. My stepdaughter, years and years ago, was trying to be nice. She gave me her old 2006 MacBook, but she couldn't find the restore discs for it.
oh yeah,
So she went to Apple. She actually drove down to Towson, Maryland, which is about an hour and a half away, went to the Apple store and bought a copy of OS 10.4 Tiger for the laptop
Rudy,
to
what
give
the
it
hell?
to me. She got the PowerPC version instead of the Intel version. And I still have that version of Tiger today that I still use on a regular basis on all
There
my
you go.
PowerPCs.
So it came in
I'm
handy.
probably one of the only people in existence that have a retail PowerPC version of Tiger.
That's quite a claim.
Nice.
That's what very. I'm sure it's in awesome condition then too.
Actually, the disc is getting pretty scratched. I'm probably gonna have to remake it here soon.
Yeah. All right, Jay, you want to read the next one?
Do I? What is it? Have you ever forgotten to submit a mail-in rebate on time and therefore missed out on money back?
Eep.
Eep.
Quack.
Eep.
Eep.
I've done it all the time.
I missed it once, and I will never ever be forgiven by my father. So it was a Seagate hard drive, and that's why I put this in there. And you got like $20 off, and I only had enough birthday money or Christmas money or whatever it was to buy that model hard drive. But with the rebate, I get the one up higher. So I think it was a 120 gig hard drive, and I swear I had the rebate right on the top of the printer. I didn't know where it went, and it was the little UPC thing, because you have to cut out the original UPC with most of these rebates. So I remember scanning all the documents in with the original UPC, so I had a copy of it. Of course, I mailed it in with the photocopy because I couldn't find the original UPC. They didn't accept it. About 3 years later, I'm clearing out the bottom of my desk, and this printer, which I haven't turned on to do anything other than scan for maybe like 2 or 3 years, I look in the paper feed tray, and there's a little thick piece of cardboard. I pull it out. It's the damn UPC from that hard drive that I cut out of that box. And what must have happened was I lifted that scanner lid. The static must have clinged it to the top of that plastic, and it slid right down into the feeder of the printer. And yep, that's a sore spot of mine.
Yep. Rocky, you want to read the next one?
Let me pull up the document
you
in
don't-
front of me.
I was gonna say.
I have it
I was
up.
gonna
I
say.
just had to look.
I
Okay.
don't have it
so,
in front of me either.
You better.
All right. All right. So, when remotely managing machines, have you ever accidentally rebooted, shut down, or otherwise did something accidentally to it?
Never.
Eep.
Big E, you work at all.
God, I hope none of my clients are watching.
I missed that one. What was it?
So the question was, have you ever accidentally remoted into a different machine that you intended to and rebooted, shut down, or otherwise did something bad to a machine that you
Definitely
accidentally
E.
connected to?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember.
Or any actually says when remotely managing machines, so it
Doesn't
doesn't
say,
say another
another
one.
one.
It could be.
Oh,
Yeah,
it could be. Yeah, it could
I've
be.
rebooted servers before by like, oh, I meant to sign up. Oops.
So, on to the next topic.
I remember at work at my old job, somebody was out sick, but I knew enough to try and help them out. So I read these instructions, and it was to reboot this machine through remote desktop. So I'm like, all right, let me do this. And I did it, and the machine's on the guy's desk, and I see the light is still on. I'm like, okay, something's screwy here. So I'm like, you know what? It's not rebooting, but I can't reconnect to it. So I'm just going to hold the power button on the back of the machine.
Oh.
Well, about 20 minutes later, I get a text message. Which machine did you turn off? I said, no, it wasn't responding. So I went and he's like, and did it manually on your desk? He's like, oh, no. That one is not on my desk anymore. I moved that downstairs last week. And I'm like, oh, you didn't tell me. Because it's a Mac Mini. It looked identical. So I didn't know that from one difference to the other. Because last week before he was out of the office, he showed me what to do. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. Thankfully, it was nothing urgent. I just booted it back up and it was fine. But it was like, I'm looking at the thing. I'm like, why isn't it restarting or shutting down? It's not here making a bong. It's not doing anything. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to hold down the button.
Oh, man.
I've managed entire clusters of the wrong machines, thinking it was one client and it was another. It was around 6 p.m. Eastern time, so I start remote desktop, and there's some other applications that work in tandem with that, where I can basically select the entire group and force them to log out, install software updates, and reboot.
Uh-oh.
Because people always ignore them, and okay, so this was a client that I still had back in Europe. It's 6 p.m. here, it's midnight there, no one is working, so I select 40 plus computers, click the button. My email and phone went crazy. Because it turns out that I selected all the computers for a company in Miami that was in my time zone. People were remoted in and using VPN and doing all kinds of stuff. So that was not my proudest moment.
How'd you weasel yourself out of that one?
I just said I effed up and, you know.
Oh no, there was an urgent security update. I just had to get it out. Didn't you see the email? And that's when you furiously type an email.
I did spin it. I did spin it and say I messed up. Blah blah blah. But if you don't want it to happen again, next time you see a software update, you better install it. And they started doing.
Nice.
Yep.
So
Let's see. Let's get Bruce
Wait.
to read this next one. Oh,
No,
go
wait.
ahead.
Bruce wanted to skip
Oh.
this one so desperately. I didn't know what he did.
Have you ever voided the warranty of an Apple product but got away with the Apple Store or repair server not knowing?
Oh, service. Oops. Typo.
Quack.
What service?
Oh,
Service.
Service.
Not knowing.
Eve. Definitely Eve.
Eep,
Definitely.
Many, many, many Eves.
because I have opened up
Quack that.
Apple products that I had to go get
Quack.
warranty stuff done on it, and as long as you put it back together right, especially I had iPhones that I would actually jailbreak because that actually voids your warranty. But when you put it right back to
Yeah,
you
they
know,
can't tell. Yeah.
reinstall it, they can't tell the difference. But I did void the warranty technically because
Yeah, I think the only thing I did was I had my 2011 iMac, and when the GPU died, I fought tooth and nail to get it repaired under their replacement program. But I installed an SSD in there, and I taped the SSD to the back of the metal frame where the CD drive was. So I had to take that out. I don't know how, but I scrubbed every little adhesive bit off of there. I replaced all the screws, and I didn't have the actual screws, so I had to take them from my 20-inch iMac from like the 2006 one, and I just barely made it in there. And they didn't notice it. They just opened it up and repaired the GPU, and that was it. But I was sweating bullets. I'm like, they're going to see I put a hard drive in here, and that's going to be the excuse for them to go, oh, well, that's why the GPU's broken.
yeah, there's a couple of screws in here stuck on the GPU.
That's where those went.
I've done
let's-
some really shady and despicable stuff that
Tell us, Jack.
Come on.
it helps if you're one of the technicians. Let's just say that.
Then it's not shady because then you're a tech, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'll buy you lunch after.
You're certified. It's fine.
All right, last one. I'm gonna let Dana read that one if he wants to read it.
Have you ever installed X11 or played with Unix code or apps on your Mac?
Eep.
I have to say
Eep.
quack.
Eep.
Quack.
I've actually had to install X11.
I've never used X11.
I've had to because there's a ham radio program that I use that's I had to actually compile it for the Mac, so I had to have Xcode on here and X11, and it ran with X11, so I had to have them on here to use it. So yes, I have actually done that. I've actually compiled software from the source code to work on a Mac.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the day, like with Tiger, with Jaguar and Panther, there were some great little apps that, were just not macOS native, but they were X11 compatible. So you install the environment, and it was a little touch and go, especially if you didn't know exactly what you were doing, like me. But I got some rudimentary apps up and running pretty quickly, which was pretty good. But I haven't really needed to touch it in a few years.
Yeah. Anybody else had experience with X11?
I've used it.
Yeah.
I don't
I've
remember
used
what
it.
for.
I've played around with
I'm
it.
pretty
to
much
just-
in the same boat.
Yeah, I've played around with it, just to experiment with it a little bit. And I usually install it on older OS installs, but
If you really need to do compiling, you need to have X11 and you need to have Xcode on there.
Yep.
So
Yeah, there were some apps that were great, like Scarlet Swordfish was mentioning, Inkscape. So there are some apps that you need X11 installed because it has all these layers and foundations to run other things. And that's the situation I was in. I needed to install it to run whatever it was. I think it might have been like a Wi-Fi finder or a hard drive mounter for Linux systems or something like that. But it was a long time ago.
Well, let's put it this way:
Yep.
if you run an X11 on your system, anything that is in the Linux community, you can actually compile and run it on a Mac, pretty much.
Yeah,
As long as the
which is great. Gives you a lot of extra apps to run.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but is X11 even still a thing in Mac
Yeah.
OS?
Yeah.
Is that the same as all this additional stuff you can install on your Mac with homebrew and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's
Kinda.
there's
Kind of.
similarities to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of, except X11 is a standardized format that is utilized by Linux and Unix
Yep.
and BSD. Because I've
All
used it quite a bit before too to support apps that I've compiled over from BSD or Linux.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead. That's the end of our game round there. I think we ran out of topics there, but we will keep that going. I think the viewers have fun doing that. I think we do too. We just need to find some more things that we have or have not done. So
Oh, there's plenty of screw ups to go around.
yeah.
Yeah. So guys, if you're in the Discord channel, we can't keep track of all the chat here on YouTube, but if you're in our Discord channel, please make suggestions. That would be great. If I guess what channel should they go?
The
and submit
topic.
those
Just go to the topic suggestions and add it
Okay.
in there.
in? Yeah.
All right. So let's go to our next main topic. Ultrasonic cleaners.
Oh, we only have 15 minutes for that. Come
No,
on.
no. This might be our last topic tonight. We'll save the other two for the
You just have to talk really fast.
the next one. We'll save the next two for I guess next week or maybe even after the WWDC. Who knows?
Yeah.
But so ultrasonic cleaners. I know that Jay has one. I know that Bruce has one, and Steve, you have one too now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Magic.
So explain.
pressure.
You had about
one of
half
you
of
guys
one for a
explain
while.
what an ultrasonic cleaner is and what it actually does.
I nominate Bruce.
Yeah. Bruce.
Okay. An ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, so we hear sound. We hear sound. It's somewhere between, I think it's 2 hertz or something, or 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. Obviously, some people don't hear as well as others, but you know we've got this range of where we hear that's audible sound. Now, once you get higher than that, you get into frequencies that are beyond, what we can actually hear. Ultrasonic cleaners work in that high frequency sound range. My one, for instance, works at 40 kilohertz, and I think Steve's works at 40 kilohertz as well. And basically what it is, it's a tank full of water that then has these little ultrasonic transducers on the bottom that emit high frequency sound. And it has a very interesting effect on the water in that it creates little cavities in the water. It sort of rips the water apart and leaves these little air voids that are extremely high in temperature, but they're tiny, little teeny weeny little things. And this is why the process is referred to as cavitation. So they clean using a process called cavitation. And when you then add a little bit of sort of detergent into that water that helps to loosen things up, it's a very, very effective way of cleaning things in very, very small places, little tiny weeny little gaps and stuff like that, and do it very, very gently. And just if you jump onto YouTube, you'll see lots of videos of people saying that they've made their own ultrasonic cleaner, and they'll get like a orbital sander and attach it to a bucket and put something in it and go, wow, look, it's now clean. That's not an ultrasonic cleaner. And that's using vibration from the sander to kind of clean with some agitation. But ultimately, an ultrasonic cleaner is using sound. If it's not using high frequency sound, it's not an ultrasonic cleaner, even though all these people say they've built their own. So, basically, that's essentially the main thing with an ultrasonic cleaner. It allows you to clean things like, computer circuitry and stuff like that, because it's very gentle on what it is, on what you're cleaning. And then you can basically just buy detergents that are designed specifically for working with computers and stuff like that help to clean away things like flux and dirt and stuff like that without doing any damage to any of the, plastics or metal or coatings or anything like that. And and they're a really handy thing, in particular if you're working with really old computers that get really scungy, sort of grubby looking old boards, and then you can just drop them in ultrasonic and then clean them. Now, of course, there is a process. There's cleaning, there's drying, because it is submerging this thing in liquid. So you have to make sure that everything gets perfectly dry afterwards. But yeah, you can get things absolutely spotlessly clean with them. So that's the summary.
And
That's the summary?
I'm going to use that clip in my video of just that saves me a lot of time. That's yeah. So I mean,
it's a question to get asked a lot. I mean, I get people ask me about the ultrasonic cleaner all the time.
That's why we nominated you, because we know you have it ready to go.
you could do it in your sleep, Yeah, so I mean, the whole purpose, I got one. I know Jay and Bruce have been repairing this, computers and boards at a component level for a long time. So that is something that they've always had in their arsenal. But for me, I just have so many of these old crusty looking boards that have some varied success on, and others just, made me rip my remaining hair out. So I just threw in the towel and bought one of these things, and I'll be releasing a video on it, so I'm not going to go too much into detail. But as Dana said, yes, I had half of an ultrasonic cleaner first, and now I think I have a full one. But we'll see what happens as I keep testing it. But
I got a question to ask Bruce, and maybe Jay and would be able to answer this too, because you've had one for a while. But is it possible you can make your own using audio vibrations versus the sander method?
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you have something that emits high frequency sound, yeah, absolutely, you can.
Like a wife.
You can probably. I mean, I'm sure you can buy things like those transducers, and I'm sure you should be able to emit that sort of sound just with with the right sort of speaker. I reckon you could probably do it as well. So yes, I mean, look, these are a very purpose-built machine. It's interesting. My first exposure to an ultrasonic cleaner was watching Rossmann videos. And so Lewis Rossmann, cleaned his boards with an ultrasonic cleaner, and it's like, oh, okay, no worries. And he basically spends all of his time in his videos talking about how you can't buy a cheap one. You have to buy these really, really expensive ones.
Bullshit.
And I bought a cheap one. I thought, we'll just see how it goes. I mean, it's not that expensive. I mean, I've heard enough people say that they still do work and everything, and I've found it to be absolutely fantastic. So it was one that cost me probably a couple of $100. It's 10 liters, which is something else in
3.5 gallons, I think.
There you go. And I've been incredibly happy with it. I mean, it does an amazing job of cleaning. There are ways you can tell if an ultrasonic is actually ultrasonicking. As I mentioned before, these little cavities of air that get created in the water, they go off with quite a fair bit of heat and intensity. So if you get a sheet of tin foil, or aluminium foil as we call it here, and you drop it in the ultrasonic cleaner and run the ultrasonic cleaner for a few minutes, when you take that out, if you hold that tin foil up to the light, you can actually see tiny little holes and pits in it. And that's showing you that it's actually doing its job. And you certainly won't get that if you have an orbital sander or something.
On Dana's recommendation, I'm going to take a sheet of tinfoil, run to my wife, and say something.
Jay's going to have a fun night.
That
Now,
did
look,
not come from me, Jay.
Thanks to Steve, we did find that cutoff point of what you should pay for an ultrasonic cleaner, as opposed to what is too cheap. We found that cutoff point of maybe spend a few dollars more.
I'm starting to begin that Steve is regretting his purchase.
All I will say is if your eBay seller is only selling one ultrasonic cleaner and the rest is car racing supplies, maybe there's a little suspect thing going on there. They got a good deal in some bulk, not quite perfect items.
But piggybacking on what Bruce said, he got his first exposure to it from a Rossmann video, as did I. And I was like, well, this guy's been doing it for a while. He says you need sweeping frequencies, so you got the 40 kilohertz all the way up to the 153 kilohertz and in between, blah, blah, blah. So you could spend $200 and have a good ultrasonic cleaner. You could spend $1,400 and have a good ultrasonic cleaner. I would recommend you ignore Rossmann on everything he says ultrasonic-wise and just buy a $200 cleaner.
I mean, having a cheap ultrasonic cleaner is going to be much better than having no
That is
ultrasonic
true.
cleaner.
Yes.
Or using the dishwasher. Or
Oh
something
no
like that.
no!
So-
Let's not do that.
So this is again, that's something that I just wanted to touch on very quickly, because people again talk to me about cleaning things in the dishwasher all the time.
Sometimes 4 or
And-
5 times.
Yes. And the thing is that one of the things, I think people are worried it's going to be either the heat or it's going to be the detergent or something. And obviously you don't use dishwashing detergent if you're going to put a circuit board in the dishwasher. But the main, because a lot of people, they just swear by the cleaning of the dishwasher. The main problem with the dishwasher is it's using tap water. Tap water has impurities in it. Once that tap water evaporates away, those impurities are going to be left behind, and they will assist in sort of early corrosion happening on that board. So what I would say to someone is, if you're going to ignore all our advice and stick something in the dishwasher, once it's out, rinse it thoroughly with distilled water to try and get as much of that old sort of water residue off as
Well,
you
could
can.
you even just soak it in
and then
alcohol
let it
and
dry.
then distilled water, or vice versa?
Yeah. I mean, whenever I put something in an ultrasonic cleaner, I rinse it off with isopropyl alcohol. Jay does it with distilled water. Both methods will work. Ultimately, it's just about getting the like any tap water off, or anything
Yeah.
left behind on the board, getting that off.
Do I hear a dishwasher running right now?
It sounds like a dog licking water.
It's Grudy's dogs.
Yeah, Jack was trying to drink out of an empty water bowl, so I had to fill it up.
So, and the reason why we're talking about this talk, because somebody was talking about this as far as putting a, in a dishwasher or something, but we also were talking about this. I know this is kind of getting a little bit off topic here, but the CPU delidding. Okay, somebody broke a CPU die, which Jay and I have sit there and said that's a possibility if you use the vice method. That's the reason why we don't recommend it. But then you have all these people that recommend it, and then somebody goes and breaks one, and we're like, told you so. But then you can hear people talk about sticking the CPU in an oven to loosen
what?
it up. Yeah, oh yeah. That was one of the comments.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he said stick the CPU in an oven, because Steve and I were talking about this too. We're like, what? And I was like, no, you never ever stick anything. And this is another thing, don't do too. Never stick a board or anything like that in an oven.
Yeah,
Because-
especially not a 20th anniversary
Yeah.
motherboard in a dishwasher either.
He's kidding.
Or when you do put something in the oven, put it at 10 degrees. So nothing happens, but you can tell your friends you did it.
Well, I
Make
don't
sure
think the
the
oven
oven-
does 10 degrees.
Ovens won't
There
go
is-
10 degrees.
The problem is that there are so many like YouTube videos. There's a lot of content out there where people have said, "Hey, look, this thing didn't work, and I put it in the oven at so and so temperature for a certain amount of minutes. I let it cool, and now it magically works." Now, if you are someone who has a computer that is not working, it seems too good to be true, and it is.
It is.
Sometimes if you have a very, very specific problem, and that is where your solder has potentially cracked or come away from two contacts, it's not there anymore, and you heat it up to a point that solder then melts and reflows and reestablishes contact. If you're in a situation like that, yes, with the right sort of controlled heating, you can make something work again. But the chances of that being your problem and the chances of you getting it right by just putting it in the oven are very slim.
Well, here's the other problem
thing is,
too.
there's our friend, he's in Japan, JDW. He baked his iMac graphics card, I think, 35 times or something, and it fixed it temporarily every time until finally it just.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, and I think that's
down.
why people do it, because they get a result and they go, "Oh, it must have fixed
Well,
it."
that's because,
But-
like you said, they watch the YouTube videos. But here's the thing, though: when you put a card or something like that in the oven, yes, you're wanting to reflow just the chip. But guess what? You have all these components that's around it, it's capacitors and stuff that you're cooking those, which they're not designed to have that much heat put on them.
Yeah.
Plus,
So-
people don't understand.
Just buy a heat gun.
Just keep talking, Grudy.
Yeah. Plus, people don't understand that reflowing it isn't reflowing the solder. because you're not getting it hot enough to flow the
Yeah.
solder.
Exactly.
What
Yeah.
the problem
That
is
has to
is
be
the
like-
chip.
Yeah,
The
that's
substrate
exactly
in the
right.
chip starts pulling
Yeah.
apart.
Mm-hmm.
If you heat it up, it sometimes splooshes back together, and it will work a little while.
Yeah.
That's what reflowing is.
That's right, and
It's not a good
you're exactly
fix.
right. You've got to in order to actually melt the solder. I think it's got to be. I'm going to talk in C here, but I think for you'd probably be having to do it over 200 degrees Celsius. I would think because it's lead-free solder that they use on those, which have a higher melting point. And if you did put the board in for that, sort of that sort of temperature, with enough time to actually properly flow the solder balls under that chip, you're likely for other things to kind of like fall off.
Or your oven fall out of the ground.
I mean, it has happened to me. I did it by accident once. I wasn't actually reflowing. I was drying a board in the oven, and there was a slight mix-up with the temperature, and where I normally set the oven at a very, very low temperature just to dry a board out that's been cleaned. I now use a separate oven that has the temperature permanently set. But this was back in the days when I used to use the household oven. And one day I put the board in there, I dried it, it was all done, it was all finished, and I forgot about it. And then someone else came along to cook something, turned the oven right up, preheated it, and came back and just found a smudge. A big
Smudge? Is that a new
solder smudge. Thankfully, it was mine and not a customer's.
What board was it?
Brock
it
made
would've
a
been one of
good
the
comment
MacBook
here.
Pros
He
I was
says
working on.
only
Oh,
Windows
God.
10 PCs go into the oven at 500 degrees for 1 hour.
Yeah, that's to get all the bugs
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Yes.
that could be every Mac too. I mean, every
Yeah,
Intel Mac. They can.
So I think the only thing that we didn't mention is why would you use an ultrasonic cleaning, and that is if you're doing this type of repair on a computer, you're using flux, you're using solder, you're replacing components, capacitors, whatever on an old computer or a new computer. The cleaner is going to help you get all that gunk that you put on the board off of it and try and get it as clean as possible.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Plus, it also gets into all the little nooks and crannies that you can't get to, like underneath the chip, because the solder balls have it up a little bit.
And that's where.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
a classic example is I did a stream probably a week or so ago where I was working on a Macintosh Color Classic, and it had lots of problems. Anyhow, we went in and we recapped it. We did all that. We went in, tested it. We got no sound from the thing, or a very, very quiet sound. Now, obviously, there are lots of things that could have been, but this was a pretty dirty board. It had leaked electrolyte, it had flux, it had all sorts of things on it. I put that board into the cleaner, got it all clean, got it dried, and it worked. It started working beautifully. So there was actually no further fault on that computer after being recapped. It was just all the gunk left behind.
Probably causing some shorted traces and stuff.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
So, all right, guys. So we have pretty much reached the end of the show tonight. If you're going to follow us, we do have a Discord available. So make sure you join that Discord. The link is up there on the screen right now. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Make sure you hit that little bell icon. We only do this once a week, so you're not going to get a whole bunch of alerts and everything. Also, reminder, guys, remember, we're going to be streaming on Monday night versus Thursday night next week. So we'll be putting out the info and stuff right before we go live, but it's going to be the same time, 8 o'clock 8 o'clock in the evening on Monday night versus Thursday night next week. So that's probably I think that'd be the first time we ever went off day, right? Or off Thursday.
It'll be the same time. It'll be the same time, 8 p.m.
Yep, 8 p.m. Yep.
Yeah,
And I should mention, GT, that your head was perfectly positioned in that logo box to give you an ear and a horn on one end.
Yeah, there we go. So, anyways, guys, but thanks for showing up tonight. And guys, you got anything else to add here?
I think Steve has some.
Yeah, just quickly, I'm actually going to be on the Computer Clan's WWDC, whatever they're calling it, on Monday before MacYak, and then I'm going to hop on to MacYak also. So if you follow them and you see my face, you're not seeing double Steves. I'm going to be participating in both, or I'll try to at least. I don't know what's going to go on.
Hey.
You'll see a very delicious Steve in one place.
MacYak's a priority, man. Sorry.
Yeah, don't waste all your energy over there. You got to come back and you've got to be the best you can with us.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like asleep and like not giving answers while I'm on this show. Yeah, that'll earn me some points.
Yep. Hey,
No,
but you could give
it
some
will-
throw some little tidbits out there. Say, hey, Mac Yak later on is gonna,
I'm gonna be wearing a shirt that just says Mac
you
Yak on
should.
it.
You
There
should
go.
have the background like me right now. See?
We'll all
Well,
just
just-
What
invade
about a
the
great
chat.
QR code link?
All right, guys. So that's it for tonight, and we will see you guys Monday night. So catch you later.
See you Monday.
All right.
Monday.
Later.
Have a good week.